In my opinion, the toughest conference in NBA history was the Western Conference in the 2000s. You had the Spurs dynasty that was winning every other year. The Lakers had pretty much two different dynasties with Kobe and Shaq and then Kobe and Pau. Dirk and the Mavericks were always very solid. But what about the other teams that never won? What happened to them? Well, one of these teams was derailed by injuries, and we're going to look at what could have happened with this team, the Houston Rockets, with Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady. What's going on, guys? SMH Super Mario Hoops back with some more hoops, and today we're going to dive into a little what if of the Houston Rockets and if their two star players were all healthy throughout these years. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive back into the past. Yao Ming was drafted first overall in 2002. Of course, it would take 2 more seasons before Tracy McGrady joined the team via trade in 2004. So we're going to start with the 2004-2005 NBA season because that was the first time these two were together and had a realistic chance of, pulling off a championship. Now, in that first year, they were actually both relatively healthy. Yao played 80 of 82 games, and Tracy McGrady played 78 of the 82 games. And they both played every playoff game as well. They were 51-31 on the year, the 5th seed that lost to the 4th seeded Dallas Mavericks 4-3. And they were even up 2-0 in the series, but T-Mac struggled in Game 5, shooting 7 of 22, and Yao really wasn't that aggressive after Game 2, shooting about 10.3 field goal attempts a game between Games 3 and 5, all games that they lost. But their depth was probably the biggest problem, as the Mavs had them beat with Jerry Stackhouse, Devin Harris, and Marquise Daniels. So this season, pretty much no outcome would have changed. Now moving on to the 2005-2006 season, this one had a ton of injuries. They were the 34-48 record 12 seed. Yao Ming missed 25 games, Tracy McGrady missed 35, and if we just contribute what they could have been at a full season's worth, they probably would have won about 8 more games. Of course, Rafier Alston, who was the starting point guard, also missed 19 games, so we're going to count him as well. There likely wouldn't be a good chance the Rockets come away with any success this season either, as improving their record by 8 games, they're still 42-40 and the 9 seed. In the 2006-2007 season, the Houston Rockets were 52-30, and just like 2 seasons prior, the 5th seed. Tracy McGrady missed 11 games, and Yao missed 34. But around this time, Yao was starting to become the best player on the team as well. Now, if you contribute those guys at a full season's worth, that's about a 5-game advantage combined and a 57-25 record. However, that's still only the 5 seed based on the NBA rules at the time for division leaders being top 4. And the Utah Jazz were in a different division, so they still would get the 4 seed, and they still lost to the 4-seeded Jazz in a tough 7 games, even with T-Mac and Yao healthy in this season. So there really isn't much to change here, just another tough loss for the Houston Rockets. But going into the 2007-2008 season, things would change. A 55-27 record was reality for these Houston Rockets, good enough for the 5th seed in the West, once again for the 3rd time in 4 years. Yao Ming missed 27 games in the season and Tracy McGrady missed 16. Contributing those guys into a full season's worth, they win at least 5 more games and go 60-22, which is good enough actually for the best record in the Western Conference and second best in the NBA behind the 66-16 Boston Celtics. Now, originally they lost to the 4-seeded Jazz in 6 games, but Yao Ming didn't play due to a stress fracture in his left foot, and instead 6'6" Chuck Hayes did. A complete foot loss moving from Yao Ming to Chuck Hayes. So the Rockets would get past the 8-seeded Nuggets with Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony, as pretty much nobody would be able to stop Yao, and both Melo and T-Mac will be going off. Of course, Nuggets do have Allen Iverson, but that team kind of struggled on the other end. They would likely play the Spurs in the second round, who would now become the 5 seed with the Rockets' improvements and were a much better team than the 4-seeded Utah Jazz. Now, originally, Tim Duncan struggled in the second round of this year's playoffs, putting up about 15 points, 13 rebounds, a little under 3 assists, but he only shot 42% from the field and 47.5% true shooting. As he struggled with Tyson Chandler on him, there would be much of the same with the 7'6" Yao Ming, if not more, especially since during the season, Houston was one of two teams that was ranked better defensively than the Spurs, even with their key injuries. The other was Boston. So I expect Houston to win this in no more than 6 games, where the Houston Rockets would go on to the conference finals, where it was the first time in 11 years Houston had actually won the season series over this opponent, the LA Lakers. Along with adding Yao Ming into the mix would only make life harder for Pau Gasol, who averaged about 13 points, just under 10 rebounds, 3.5 assists on 44.5% from the field and 47% true shooting against the San Antonio Spurs originally in these conference finals. And remember, this was the season that they had just traded for Gasol. And while many of the pieces that they got rid of were dead weight for the most part, the Lakers still weren't a great team in whole before that trade even happened, besides having Kobe Bryant and Lamar Odom for the most part. Therefore, the Rockets had a better all-around cast, and while I expect Kobe to do everything possible to will these Lakers to the finals, I would expect Houston to win in about 7 games, making their way to the NBA Finals. And while I do believe a healthy version of this Rockets team could challenge Boston even more than the Lakers did, I don't expect them to win. Boston was the only team ranked above them on both ends of the floor, offense and defense, the only team that had a better record than them with the adjustments, and had too much firepower that year with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, a young Rondo, and Kendrick Perkins, who was a great interior defender, would make it tough on Houston and even Yao Ming. However, since this is a hypothetical, and since the Celtics went to 7 games with the 8-seeded Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers pretty much behind only LeBron that year, I'll give Houston the benefit of the doubt and say that they will lose to the Celtics in 7 games. And while it seemed like this was their best chance yet, there comes another one later on. The 2008-2009 season was much of the same. A lot of regular season success for these Rockets, 53-29 record, and you guessed it, the 5th seed yet again. Yao Ming only missed 5 games in this season, and Tracy McGrady missed about 47. So we're not really going to do much with Yao here, but converting Tracy McGrady's impact for a full season's worth, that's at least a 3-game advantage, and the team also added Ron Artest in the offseason, which is something to note. They would beat the 7-seeded Hornets with ease, probably about 5 games, along with taking down Denver in 5-2, as they still cannot stop Yao down low, and with better wing defenders to slow down Carmelo. Also, it should be noted that the Houston Rockets beat the Denver Nuggets in the regular season series this year, 3-1. They would match up with the Lakers in the conference finals yet again, who originally they lost to in 7 games without Tracy McGrady and with no Yao Ming for 4 of the 7 games. In a healthy environment, the Rockets would get past the original NBA champions of this year, the Los Angeles Lakers, in about 6 games, en route to face Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic in the NBA Finals. Now, Dwight Howard was having a really good season. He had made first-team All-NBA this year over Yao Ming, who actually ended up on second-team All-NBA. But when they went head-to-head, Yao was usually the top dog for this season. Houston had won both games in the regular season, and Yao dropped about 22 points, 15 rebounds, 2 assists, about 2 steals, and about 2 blocks on about 61% shooting from the field, 89% from the free throw line, and just over 67% true shooting. You couldn't ask for more for Yao Ming to do against Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic this year. While on the other end of things, Dwight Howard put up about 13 points, just under 10 rebounds, half an assist, half a steal, 2.5 blocks a game, so you got to give him credit there, but only shot about 47.5% from the field, and even worse from the free throw line at 43%. Overall, his true shooting percentage was under 48%, which is a substantial difference from Yao Ming's efficiency. Along with the fact that Houston swept the regular season series and Tracy McGrady didn't even play in one of the contests, and the finals experience they would have from the year prior in a healthy setting for Houston, there's no way to believe they wouldn't get past these Orlando Magic, and I expect them to do so in 6 games. And with what's backed up between the contest and the regular season with the two, Yao Ming would be the finals MVP. Moving on to the 2009-2010 NBA season, and this is honestly where it ends. I mean, Tracy McGrady, he only played 6 games in this season, while Yao played 0. So it's kind of hard to gauge how good they would be in a fully healthy setting. Along with the injuries, it was clear that McGrady was not the same player he once was. He would eventually bounce around to end his career with teams like the Knicks, Pistons, Hawks, and Spurs. As for Yao, I'm sure if he was healthy, he would continue to dominate for a few more seasons, but as we saw super teams like the Big Three Heat and the Kevin Durant Warriors come about, he likely would not win another championship in Houston unless something catastrophic happened. And sure, they got James Harden in 2012 from OKC, but by the time they generated any form of success was when Yao was 34 years old in the 2014-2015 season. And their best chance, which was probably in 2018 when they went to 7 with the Warriors in the conference finals, Yao would have been 37 years old then. So it's kind of hard to expect he'd still be playing as great as he was in his prime. Of course, this is all just a what-if scenario, and there's no right or wrong answer, but I am confident that this team would have been so much better if injuries did not derail them. Players such as Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon have both been quoted saying Yao Ming was one of the most skilled centers ever. So would a championship and a finals MVP put him up there with those greats? How much would Tracy McGrady benefit from a title by his name? These are the questions that unfortunately will never be answered. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm going to be posting more videos. It's been nice to do some of these old style videos again because kind of got away from doing them, but it's great to learn about NBA history. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope everyone's staying safe, and I think that's going to do it for me. I'm out. Peace.